Hi, welcome to this module. So this is the very first module of our SVG course, and in here we'll be looking at the basics about how to create your SVG images and which software you can use, where to embed them, and so on and so forth. So obviously SVG is for web pages, so you need a HTML page in order to create them. So this is one of the ways of creating them, and I have a very basic HTML page in here with some meta tags, with a link tag to a style sheet, and with a title that says creating SVG with code, and the language is English, just a simple HTML5 page. Okay, and then in here we can create our SVG. Okay, and I'm using a brackets editor. Let me write it down. Brackets editor. You can do a simple Google search for brackets.io editor and you'll get free access to their software. It's an open source software and it can be used on both Mac and PC. So I'm using it on PC. And there is also Sublime Text, which can also be used to run pretty much any web-based program, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and so on. And we can run our SVG code in Sublime Text or brackets.io as well. So if you don't want to download any editors as such, and if you want to go for the simpler options, if you're using a PC, you must have Notepad installed and you can very well use it. All you have to do is create a notepad and save it as index.html or style.css or image name.svg and so on, and that's all you need. Or you could also use Notepad++ if you're using a Mac. So these are the different options you have to run your web pages and to create SVGs and to run SVG images and so on and so forth. Okay. So before creating an SVG image or drawing, you need to create the SVG tags that will hold all the SVG drawing codes inside it. So this is called the drawing area or the viewport. Okay, so you have to create an SVG tag with the width and height and everything, and it will be the viewport which will contain all the drawings that you draw. Okay, so that's the SVG image as such. So let's see how we can create that tag and some of the attributes in this lesson. So first of all, within the body of your HTML page, you can create your SVG tags like this. So this is the syntax you have to use to create an SVG image right inside your HTML document. So wherever you put these two tags, the image would be displayed in that particular place. And it's a block tag, as in it will take up the entire width, just like the div elements and the other block elements of HTML. So if there is a p tag in here with some text, okay, so first this text would be displayed and then below that this SVG image would be displayed. Okay, so that's how you can position your SVG image inside your web page in any position or any place you want. You can also specify the width and height of this particular SVG image as well, and that would be the drawing area. It's called the viewport, that is viewport. So to create the drawing area, you have to specify the width and the height inside this particular SVG tag. Okay, so this is the visible area of the SVG image within which the shapes and diagrams that you create will be displayed. So by specifying the width and height of this viewport, you're specifying the dimensions of this image. Let's say I want my SVG image to have a viewport that's about 500 pixels in width and 500 pixels in height. So let's remove this. To create that, I have to use the width attribute first. And first of all, 500 in here. And similarly, with the height attribute, 500 in here. So this is how you'll create that. Do you see that we haven't mentioned pixels? That is, we didn't mention px in here. So we just mentioned the numbers. That's because pixels are the default units of measurement in SVG. So even if you don't mention them, your browser would automatically consider it as pixels. You can change this unit of measurement though. There are other units as well which you can use. Let me mention some of them in here. So there is cm, which is used to indicate centimeters. Please take a note of all of these because you might need it in the future. And then there is mm, which is for millimeters. There's in, which is for inches. and then EM, which is the default font size. It's usually the size of a character. So the default size of a character is EM. Okay. So if we give 500 EM in here, that means the width is 500 into the default width of a character. Okay. So that's how it works. And then EX is the height of the character. Sorry about that. Height of the character X. So there's a default height of this particular character X, and that height into whatever number you specify. So that would be the size of the width. And let's just remove this. There's PX, obviously, which means pixels, but you don't have to mention that because that is the default. There's PT, which is used to refer to points, which is 1/72 of an inch. Okay. And then there's also PC, which refers to picas. It is 1/6 of an inch. So these are the dimensions. Okay, so these are the values, and you know what centimeters are, you know what millimeters are, and what inches are. So the number you give here, so if you give 500 centimeter in here, that is a 500 centimeter width, which is a lot. Okay, so you should probably not give something like that. You should probably stick to around 50 centimeters, something like that. Okay. So these are the different units that you can mention. Please take a note of them so that you can refer to them later on if you need to. And usually I prefer sticking to pixels because it's easy to work with pixels. And our laptops and our mobile screens, everything are calculated in pixels actually. So it's easier to work with pixels, so you can calculate what the actual size of the image is with respect to your devices. Okay. So this is how you'll set the different units that you want. So that's up to you, as I told you. But what you set for this viewport stays within this viewport. If you set 500 millimeter in here and 500 millimeter in here, that will be just for the viewport. If you create another shape in here, so let me create a circle. Don't worry about the code of the circle for now. I'll cover that in a later lesson. So I'm creating a circle. Let's just end it like this. So I'm creating a basic circle now. The thing is, even though the viewport is measured in millimeters, the circle would not be measured in millimeters. Unless we mention millimeter in here, it would be taken as pixels because every line of code has a default of pixels. Okay. The unit of measurement that you mention for your SVG as such won't be applied for the inner images or shapes that you draw inside the SVG image. So those will have a default measurement of pixels as usual, and you can change the unit of measurement of the shapes separately, but it won't be defaulted. Okay. I'll show you how to create images and how to change the units of measurements later on in the future lessons. So this is just to show you how it works. So that's it for the SVG tag. In the next lesson, let's look at how you can display these SVG images in your browsers. I'll see you there. Thank you.